Hello, I'm Tom Stapleton, the Executive Director of the Wakefield Community Access Television Station. And today we have a couple of gentlemen here. We have Arthur Dickinson and Robert Hale, and they're from the Retired Men's Club of Wakefield. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what this club is all about. They feel as though that they need some more exposure to attract new members and to let people understand what it's like to get old and what some of the problems you have with that. But there is hope out there, and they're going to talk a little bit about that. So the first question is I'd like to ask, and anybody can jump in on it, what is the history of the group and when did it start?
The club started in 1962 as an outreach of this First Parish Congregational Church. And in so doing, they had formulated the 929ers Banjo Club. And from that, we get an outreach of Retired Men's Club of Wakefield. From the Retired Men's Club of Wakefield, we have 13 communities represented. The membership at one point had been 700.
Wow.
And we're down now to about 30 attendees, but there are 85 enrolled, shut-in or at-home members that we try to keep in touch with. It's a great feeling, great fellowship.
Robert, did you want to add anything?
No, I was just thinking when you talked about this history and how it was developed through the 929ers, what we want to do is emphasize that it is not religiously connected in any way.
Okay.
We invite people from every religion. We don't talk about religion at our meetings or anything, even though there's a connection because we're renting in the church and connected with them for 60-odd years. We're not part of any church.
Okay.
We're not religious connected at all.
Okay.
And we don't talk politics.
Okay.
And politics is the same thing.
Yeah, we don't.
Everybody has their own thing. If they want to talk about politics between themselves, that's fine. That's what they're there for. Talk about what they want to talk about. You know?
Sure. Well, what does a typical meeting consist of?
Our meetings start at 9 o'clock in the morning. Usually between 9 and 9:30, we have coffee and donuts available. At 9:30, we go on and we have our business meeting. And at 9:45 or 10 o'clock, the speaker comes. We have all kinds of speakers. We have from everybody from A to Z.
Well, we have a brochure that was put out on their 40th anniversary.
The 40th
and
anniversary.
It lists
Yes.
all of the speakers and meetings they had during all those 40 years.
Wow.
And the variety is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
And how do you get these speakers?
Well, we search them out and see if they'll come and speak with us.
Well, for instance, I've gone to the senior center and gotten the name of contacts, and I've been making up because I'm going to be stepping into that position come January 1st of being responsible for obtaining speakers. I've done that a few years before, but it's necessary. So we've got speakers coming from a hospital outreach. We have doctors, we have attorneys from time to time. We have interest, speakers that have hobbies. We've had the speaker that runs the Boston Duck Tours, and he's been there. We've had the speaker that is in Wolfboro, New Hampshire, that has the World War II Memorial. And this is items that pertain to parts of our lives that are historical, and they come alive.
It sounds really interesting. And how much of a crowd do you have when you do it? Well, you had mentioned that.
Well,
about 30
right
people.
now we are in trying to get our publicity out there, our name out there, we're encouraging new members to come.
Well, that brings up a good question. Either one or both you can answer it. What made you decide to join? I mean, I don't know how long you've been members, but it seems like you've been around here for a while. And what was the deciding factor for you to join the men's club?
Well, I know in my particular case, I was growing up here in Wakefield, and at that particular time, I was in Boy Scouts, and we had the older Boy Scouts were called Explorers, Explorer Post 722. And our leader at that time was a man named George Reederman, and George encouraged us, or set an example for me, that he was a member of the Retired Men's Band. and they would come. Their band rehearses on Monday mornings, and then they play at different functions. And I always thought, gee, that's something. And then there was a fellow that I knew because I did spend the first 16 years of my life in Reading. There was a fellow that was the president from Reading at that particular time. He was a good friend of my dad. So I knew that, you know, this club has been established a long time. And I couldn't wait to say, well, I'll step in and see. And I have my brother-in-law was a member here as well.
How about you, Robert?
Well, many years before I retired, I took a part-time job nights because I was taking care of an elderly aunt, and it was very expensive, and I didn't want to cut down on what I was doing for her, and I didn't want to go into my retirement fund, so I took a part-time job at night at the New England Memorial Hospital. And when I'd go there at night, there was this elderly man that we got talking, and he was volunteering there as he ran the gift shop, bought all of the stuff for her, kept the inventory and everything, and he'd wait for me to come at night because he wanted to talk to me. And the main thing he talked to me about, he said, you know, I never knew what to expect of old age. He said, I didn't think I was going to adjust to it. And he said, somebody introduced me to the Retired Men's Club of Wakefield. And he said, it is the most wonderful experience. So every week when I'd come in, he'd be sitting there waiting for me. He said, we had a meeting today. Let me tell you who the speaker was. And he said, you know, that got me thinking about this or that. And he said, you can adjust to old age and have a wonderful time. But he said, you've got to listen to other people and find out how they did it.
Right.
And so that stuck in my mind. And he went on, and I kept track of him for years. He died at near 100.
Wow.
And it was after that I was retiring, and I said, God, I'm going to join that club.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of him and what he said about it, and I feel the same way.
Well, you know, you just mentioned something that makes a good point. A lot of people who retire, somehow they get into a kind of a rut.
Yes.
And they'll sit around the house, watch television, and start feeling sorry for themselves and not get out. And before you know it, they have more problems.
And today's generation, besides isolating themselves like that, they're tied down to taking care of grandchildren because they've got to. Their children are forcing them into it so they don't have to pay for daycare or anything. And it's a marvelous relationship. The children learn a lot, and the grandparents can learn a lot from children. But they've got to get away from that at times and learn what it is to getting older, what other people face, how they face it, so that you can adjust your old age. And that's what it's all about.
That makes perfectly good sense.
Yes, it does.
And when they expose themselves to that, then a whole new world opens up
Yes.
that they didn't think was there before.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point there. But you're right.
And they find out that there's more to life than they thought there was.
Right.
And so they forget their aches and pains and go on to things they can do.
Exactly.
And I talk to a lot of them when they first come in.
Yeah.
And I've done work at the senior center with elderly people. And they'll start talking when they first come. It's all aches and pains and their problem. And I'll listen to them and then I'll say, well, you want to know what? Everybody has these problems old age.
Right.
But if you get beyond it, there's lots of nice things you can do. And I said, some of them believe it and they go on and they have a good old age. Others won't get away from it and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, well, they've made their mind up.
They've made their mind up. They're just old and gone by. And it's not necessary.
No. What are the activities that happen outside of regular meetings?
Well, at one particular point, we had one member, Gene Moulton, who lives in Reading. He's on the Historical Society. He lives in Greenwood. He's on the Historical Society in Wakefield, and he is also, a passion of his is tour guides. And he was conducting tours, and we had enough members so that they participated in these tours. For instance, to the Veterans World War II Memorial down in Washington, D.C. They had bus tours down there and down to Annapolis and things like that. He's left our group and because there weren't enough people in attendance to make up a tour group. But, you know, the outreach is there. If we have an opportunity to do something beyond the club, we would certainly look at it and go ahead and suggest that it's available.
And if we could increase our membership, you could start that tour thing again, because that's a marvelous experience for older people. They get to see things that they probably haven't seen for 40 years, or things they've always wanted to see, and it's right there for them to do.
Yeah.
So you need a good amount of people to
Yes,
conduct
you
a tour.
do.
Well, at least more than we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And they're out there.
Oh, yeah,
You know?
they're out there. You just
Yeah.
got to draw them in, right?
That's right. Yes.
Hopefully, that's what this video here will,
This
Yeah,
helps.
that's
see
what we're
this
trying to
and
do is
just,
let them know it's there for them.
right. Tell me about how the club is organized, offices and that kind of thing.
All right. Well, we do have offices. We have a president, first vice president, a second vice president, secretary, a treasurer, and an assistant treasurer. In fact, our treasurer comes from Reading, and he's 96 years old. I think he's 97. We just sang happy birthday to him this month.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
it
wonderful.
is good. But what has happened was, if you have enough membership, you do the president 1 year, and then the first vice president moves up to the presidency and second.
Oh, okay.
But we couldn't find a second vice
How
president.
long were you president? How many years you been?
Well, my prior year was, my prior stint, I should say, was several years, and then Bob Tremblay stepped in, and Bob was in it for several years, and then I came back, and so I definitely said in September, we're looking for a new president. Nobody stepped forward but Bob again, so he's coming up, and I'm going back to second vice president. I'm going to be in charge of soliciting programs for our group, and I do wish that if anybody out there has an idea, contact me, and we'll put you in on an available date to come and be a speaker at our group.
Well, it's not easy to get offices in a club like ours because a lot of your elderly people have never done this sort of thing, and it's overpowering to them. They don't volunteer. You sort of got to work them into it.
Right.
It's a great experience for them if they can do it, but some people just can't do it,
No, but we
and that's understandable.
sure.
And that's a good idea about having a third vice president, a second vice
Yes.
president, because they can feel what's going on when they get to that point.
Right,
Yeah,
yes,
that's a good
yes.
idea.
And they feel as though they're not standing there alone when they're doing
Right.
it too.
Right.
That's very important
Yeah.
for older people.
We do also have a bowling league that meets Thursdays down at the bowling alley, Bowladrome in Wakefield at 1 o'clock on Thursdays.
And that's very popular for some of the people.
I'm
there,
not sure
too.
if it's every week or every other week, but you know, Bob Curran from Wakefield is the director of that,
Okay.
and
Very good.
yeah,
Now, the members that come, you have pretty much 30 people who come every meeting, right?
yes,
More or
And
less.
then
Up-
other
up
people
to-
come.
right.
After
And
that.
you know, we have a sign-in sheet. Everybody signs or prints their name so we can read it. And then we have whoever's the speaker, we ask them to pick a number between 1 and whatever the number we have, and that person gets a door prize.
Oh,
So we give them
Yeah.
out a door prize, and we also have one for the
That's
speaker.
another thing that it gets people anticipating, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't pay for our speakers because we don't have enough income, but those that do volunteer, we do give them a certificate as a door prize.
now,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say another thing we do when they come in, we have a greeter that greets each person as they come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's just someone they know they don't have any conversation, but if it's a new person, they greet them
Yeah.
and make sure that they get acclimated. And then everybody gets a name sign they put on so that's another thing. Older people don't remember names very well, you know that. I'm one of them.
you don't have to be old to have that
But we
happen.
have just these stickers they put on because,
Yeah.
and it's marvelous because we have a time right after the coffee and donuts where everybody goes and greets everybody else. They go and they say hello to everybody around them, and there's the name right there, so you know who you're talking to.
You know, I was just thinking, transportation. If somebody wanted to come to the meeting, do they arrange that themselves, or is there something
Well, I
available?
know I have received emails, this individual has a problem. If it rains or something, he doesn't drive. And if I know ahead of time that he's in need of a ride, I contact another fellow, and he's willing to
help
go and pick up. Right, and we do have one fellow who will try to reach out to those that are shut in or at home. And we have people that are in nursing homes. We have people in their own home. Sometimes they're caregivers looking out for their partners so that they're unable to get to some of the meetings. And we try to follow up and say, gee, is everything all right with you? Because we missed you.
A good example of people getting transportation. Your WCAT friend that was in your board for years,
Frank Hagerty.
Frank Hagerty.
Yeah.
He has someone that doesn't live too far from him that's almost blind, can't see at all, but he loves our meeting. He picks him up at every meeting and brings him and sits him next to him, helps him if he needs it to get his food and everything, and he loves every meeting. He sits there and he laughs and he enjoys every bit of it.
Oh, see?
It's
That's
wonderful.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the type of thing that we're good for and that we contribute to, you know.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to mention that we haven't covered yet?
Well, there's another thing that we do before each meeting. People get there early for their coffee and donuts. The first 15 minutes, we have a walk as far as you want to go up around the lake.
Well, in the good weather.
Yeah, well,
Not today.
Not today, no.
And
But,
anybody that wants to just joins, and they walk up as far as they want to, turn around, and come back, and so they get a little exercise too.
Yeah.
And we have had the Romeo group. The Romeo is retired old men eat out. And so one Thursday night a month, we have been basically at the North Avenue Diner. But we often thought if we get incorporating more members or more people, then we would
You
venture
get
to
groups that'll
other.
go out and socialize like that outside the club.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's nice. It brings more life and more vibrancy to people's lives. That's what
I
it
see
does.
a lot of that. I go to Brothers Restaurant a lot, and I see a
Okay.
lot of groups over there. And
Really?
In the back of the restaurant, they have a lot of area there. And,
Yes, they do.
and it's a great
But
place.
we tried to
And they have
have,
WCAT and their TV
right,
all
too.
the time down there too, don't they?
Yes, they do. Thanks for mentioning that.
all right, yes, very good. No, we've been to Brothers, we've had a board meeting down there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let me, we got a few minutes left here. Are there any women involved in the Retired Men's Club?
Well, we've reached out and we've had different programs.
Yeah.
We've had the Senior Echoes. It's a singing group from the North Reading Senior Center come down, and they're a mixed group of men and women. And we invited our wives. I invited my wife to come, and she ended up singing in that group.
Oh, good,
So
yeah.
we have had them down to Wakefield to entertain us. We do have the Retired Men's Band entertaining us 4 sessions a year at different months, not every month, but they do come. And so
Well, also, we've invited all of the men that belong there. If any meeting there's anything going on, or if they need their wife to drive them, your wife is welcome. Bring her.
Okay.
And some occasionally you'll see 2 or 3. Not all the time, not a lot, but they're welcome and they know that.
Oh, that's good.
we did have one incident where we had a fellow first-time visitor bring his wife for the speaker. They came for the speaker, and gee gosh, didn't you know it? The speaker didn't show. That was rather embarrassing, but it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful. I think it's a lot of information here that's going to be put out into the area where people can see it, and I really appreciate.
Yes, I will mention this. We have a little gong. Once the gong rings, we get up and meet and greet. This is followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag,
Okay.
and then we all join in the singing of God Bless America.
Yeah, every meeting.
Every
And it's nice.
meeting.
It's a nice start after they had their coffee and donuts.
Very good.
Yeah.
Wow.
It moves right along. And if there were more people there, it would be more vibrant.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
Well, hopefully this will help out.
I hope
So,
so.
No.
yes,
Certainly
indeed.
given plenty of information about
Thank you for your time
Well, thank
and
you.
the opportunity to come before the cameras.
Very
And
well. Very good. Well, there you have it, folks, the Retired Men's Club of Wakefield. And it's not just Wakefield, it's other communities too that they love to have invited in here. So take a look at it. The email is at the bottom of the screen, and there's a phone number. Give a call. You may just like it. Thanks very much.